I started learning Stoicism the day I got ghosted by my therapist and spilled coffee on my MacBook in the same 10 minutes. That was the moment I realized, okay, maybe I'm not doing amazing. Sweetie, living in Brooklyn doesn't help. The rent is absurd, the trains are imaginary, and somehow I'm both overbooked and lonely. But Stoicism, it didn't give me instant peace. It gave me a pause button, a way to breathe through the chaos, a way to stop taking everything personally, especially my own thoughts. In this video, I'm not quoting dead philosophers to sound smart. I'm sharing 10 life lessons I've actually lived through late trains, failed dates, and one very humbling panic attack at a Trader Joe's. If you've ever Googled how to be chill without quitting your whole life, you're in the right place. Lesson number 1, embrace what you can control. Let me take you back to a chilly Monday morning in early December. I was in a rush, juggling a to-go coffee, my laptop bag, and the existential dread of an impending client meeting. As I navigated the crowded subway platform, a sudden jolt from an overzealous commuter sent my coffee flying right onto my shirt. Cue the internal monologue. Why today? Why me? This is a disaster. I felt the familiar surge of frustration and anxiety bubbling up. But then, amidst the chaos, a thought surfaced. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Ah, Epictetus, your wisdom never fails. I took a deep breath. I couldn't control the spilled coffee or the delay it caused, but I could control my reaction. So, I pulled out my phone, emailed the client about the mishap, and used the extra time to review my presentation notes. In that moment, I realized that while I couldn't prevent every unforeseen event, I could choose how to respond. It was a small victory, but a meaningful one. The Stoic perspective, control and choice. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, emphasized the importance of distinguishing between what we can control and what we cannot. This principle, known as the dichotomy of control, is central to Stoic philosophy. What is within our control, our judgments, how we interpret events, our desires and aversions, what we choose to pursue or avoid, our actions, how we respond to situations, what is beyond our control, external events, weather, traffic, other people's actions, our body, health, physical appearance, reputation, and status, others' opinions of us. By focusing on what we can control and accepting what we cannot, we can achieve tranquility and resilience. Applying Stoicism in daily life. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in things beyond our control. Social media, news cycles, and daily inconveniences can overwhelm us. But by embracing the Stoic principle of focusing on what we can control, we reclaim our peace of mind. Next time you're stuck in traffic, or your Wi-Fi decides to take a nap during a Zoom call, remember, you can't control the situation, but you can control your reaction. So, take a deep breath, smile, and maybe even laugh at the absurdity of it all. After all, as Epictetus might say, it's not the event itself, but your judgment of it that causes distress. Lesson number 2, acceptance is a superpower. It was one of those crisp Brooklyn mornings where the air smells like roasted chestnuts and existential dread. I was sitting on a bench in Fort Greene Park, surrounded by golden leaves and the distant sound of a saxophone playing Autumn Leaves. Classic New York. I was scrolling through old photos on my phone, My dad and I at Coney Island. Him pretending to be terrified on the Ferris wheel. Me laughing so hard I nearly dropped my cotton candy. He had passed away a few months prior, and yet some irrational part of me kept expecting a new message from him to pop up. Don't forget to water the plants. Or his favorite, did you finally learn how to cook pasta without turning it into glue? But the screen stayed silent. No new messages, just memories. I felt a lump in my throat, the kind that's half sorrow, half realization. That's when I remembered a quote from Marcus Aurelius. Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy. I stared at that quote, and it hit me harder than a pigeon aiming for your freshly cleaned jacket. I had been resisting reality, wishing things were different, clinging to a version of life that no longer existed. So, I sat there, letting the tears flow freely, probably alarming a jogger or two. But in that moment, I wasn't just mourning my dad. I was mourning my refusal to accept life as it is. Acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of the illusion of control. It's realizing that the universe doesn't operate on our personal schedules or desires, and that's okay. As I left the park, a squirrel darted in front of me, narrowly missing my foot. I couldn't help but laugh. Life, in all its unpredictability, was still moving forward, and so was I. Takeaway. Acceptance is like that friend who tells you when you have spinach in your teeth. Uncomfortable but necessary. It's not about resignation. It's about recognizing the limits of our control and finding peace within them. So, next time life throws a curveball, be it a delayed train, a lost job, or an unexpected goodbye, remember, you can't control the pitch, but you can choose how to swing. And maybe, just maybe, you'll hit a home run. Lesson number 3, be present, because the moment is enough. It was a Tuesday, not the poetic kind of Saturday where everything feels slow and cinematic. No, a perfectly average Tuesday. I was running late, coffee spilled on my sleeve, and somewhere between locking the door and catching the train, I realized I had left my phone at home. For a millisecond, I considered turning back, but then I sighed the kind of sigh Marcus Aurelius would have been proud of and thought, well, the universe has spoken. I walked into Prospect Park, phoneless, musicless, notificationless, essentially stripped of my digital armor. At first, my fingers twitched like phantom limbs searching for dopamine. But then, something strange happened. I noticed things. The drizzle tapping on leaves like a soft drum roll, the earthy smell of wet bark, a golden retriever that made eye contact with me and gave a smile so pure, I almost questioned the meaning of life. 2 squirrels were having what looked like an intense marital dispute over a nut. It was drama. It was theater. It was life. And I was present. Seneca once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future." I used to think that was just a nice quote for Instagram, but that morning, it landed. Really landed. I didn't need Spotify to set the mood. I didn't need to check if someone texted me back. I just needed to be here. With squirrels. With drizzle. With nothing but my own breathing. And strangely enough, it was more than enough. Lesson number 4. Pain doesn't break you. It introduces you to yourself. It was a Tuesday night in October, cold enough for socks, not cold enough for heat. I remember because I sat on the wooden floor of my apartment in Bushwick, wrapped in a hoodie that still smelled like her. The apartment was dead quiet, except for the buzzing fridge and the occasional creak of old Brooklyn pipes. No music, no TV, just silence. And me. She had left that morning, not with a fight, not with drama, just quiet, like a door closing in another room you can't quite reach. I looked around, the empty mug she always used, the book she'd left half read, the ridiculous cactus we named Seneca because it refused to die. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I laughed again. Because what else do you do when your life falls apart and a plant becomes your last witness? I wanted to run, disappear into noise, call friends, scroll endlessly, pour a drink, anything to not feel what I was feeling. But I didn't. Instead, I sat on the floor, in the stillness, and I remembered what Epictetus wrote: difficulties show men what they are. So I let the pain in, not to punish myself, not to wallow, but to meet the version of me who existed after the storm. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't beautiful. It was messy and raw and quiet, but it was honest. And somewhere between the silence and the soft hum of the city outside, I realized pain didn't break me. It revealed me. The version of me who could sit alone and not crumble. The one who didn't need saving. The one who finally stopped outsourcing peace to someone else's presence. That night, I didn't have all the answers. But for the first time in weeks, I wasn't running. And sometimes, that's where strength begins. Lesson number 5. Choose your reaction. That's your power. It was just another weekday evening. I was at the grocery store, not far from my apartment in Brooklyn. You know, one of those small, dimly lit places where the aisles are too narrow and the mood's always slightly chaotic. I had just finished work, my head still buzzing with Slack messages and unread emails. I hadn't eaten all day. I was tired. I was irritable. Not exactly my best self. I finally reached the checkout line with a basket full of basics: eggs, bread, oat milk, the essentials of someone trying to get their life together. Then it happened. A man, maybe mid-40s, suit slightly wrinkled, Bluetooth still in his ear, casually stepped in front of me in line. No eye contact, no excuse me, just as if I didn't exist. The old version of me, I would have said something. Sharp, clever, just biting enough to feel like I'd won. But something stopped me, or rather, something anchored me. I remembered a line from Marcus Aurelius: "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up. Things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone." So I didn't react. I just stood there. I let him go ahead. And here's the strange part. The moment passed, and I still had peace. Not resentment, not suppressed rage pretending to be zen. Actual peace. When I got outside, the air felt different, crisp, cold, awake, and I realized, for the first time in a long time, I had chosen my response, not let it be chosen for me. That night, back in my apartment, I ate dinner in silence. Not the lonely kind, but the sacred kind. The kind where you're not scrolling or overthinking or replaying an argument in your head. Just present. And that moment of restraint in a grocery store, it taught me more about freedom than anything else I've read in a book. I wasn't controlled by someone else's rudeness. I wasn't trying to win a meaningless battle. I was free, not just from him, but from myself. Lesson number 6, desire less and you'll have more. One rainy Saturday afternoon in Soho, I found myself wandering aimlessly, trying to escape the usual buzz of the city. The sky was heavy with clouds, and puddles reflected the flickering neon signs. I stopped in front of a boutique window, my eyes fixed on a watch that gleamed like a tiny promise of something better. Success, status, maybe even happiness. For nearly 20 minutes, I stood there, my mind racing. You've worked so hard. You deserve this. It'll show you've made it. The temptation was real, almost suffocating. I could almost hear myself convincing. Just one purchase, one small luxury. You needed to feel whole. But beneath that voice was a quieter, nagging discomfort. A deep part of me recognized that this craving was less about the watch and more about an emptiness I was trying to fill. The desire wasn't for the object, but for the feeling I hoped it would bring. Validation, achievement, maybe even self-worth. Then, I remembered Seneca's words. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. I paused to let that sink in. It wasn't about how much I owned or could afford. The real poverty was in the endless wanting, the constant hunger for more, fueled by fear and insecurity, was a prison I had built myself. Walking away from the watch wasn't easy. Part of me still wanted to hold on to that fleeting illusion of happiness. But as I turned my back on the window, I felt something shift inside. A lightness, a quiet strength in knowing that I was choosing restraint over impulse, contentment over craving. In that moment, I realized something vital. True wealth doesn't come from possessions, but from mastering our desires. When we stop chasing after what we think will fill us, we open space to appreciate what already is. I left the boutique richer than before, not in money, but in freedom. Lesson number 7. Virtue isn't trendy, but it's timeless. It happened on a rainy Tuesday morning, sometime between caffeine and chaos. I had just finished a late shift and was half asleep, standing in a nearly empty G train car when I noticed something strange under the seat opposite me. A black wallet, thick and worn, like it had seen better years. Out of habit, I looked around. No one in sight. I picked it up, opened it. No ID, no license, just a few crumpled business cards, and a wad of cash. Easily $200, maybe more. And for a moment, something dark flickered inside me. No one saw you. You've been behind on bills. It's not stealing if no one's coming back for it. Right? But then came another voice. Quieter, firmer. One that sounded a lot like Marcus Aurelius. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. I sighed, sat back, stared at the wallet like it was some kind of moral Rorschach test. It wasn't just a decision about the money. It was about the kind of person I was becoming when no one was watching. So I searched, Googled the name on a faded card, found an email. 3 hours later, I was standing on a corner in Bed-Stuy, returning the wallet to an old man with trembling hands. He looked at me like I'd brought back a piece of his past. He didn't even count the money. He just hugged me and cried. That moment didn't go on Instagram. There was no applause, no story views, no little dopamine hit. But that night, when I lay in bed, something inside was still, like my spine had straightened, like I'd quietly passed a test no one knew I was taking. Virtue isn't glamorous, it doesn't trend, it doesn't give you followers, but it gives you yourself, fully, uncompromised, and that's something no one can ever steal from you. Lesson number 8, nothing lasts, and that's okay. I didn't plan to end up at the waterfront that evening. I was just walking, no destination, just trying to escape the noise in my own head. That kind of mental clutter where everything feels urgent and nothing feels meaningful. It was late autumn in Brooklyn. The air had that quiet chill before winter really arrives. Not cold enough to bite, but enough to make you pull your jacket tighter. I found myself near the Williamsburg waterfront, facing Manhattan. The sky was a soft orange, melting into lavender. The kind of sky you can't replicate with a filter. And for some reason, I just stopped. There was no music in my ears, no camera in my hand. Just me, the river, and the last golden light of the day. At first, I wanted to hold on to it, to capture it, label it as a perfect moment. But something inside whispered, don't ruin it by trying to keep it. That's when a line from Marcus Aurelius came to me. Not like a quote I had memorized, but like something I needed to hear again. All is ephemeral. The famous and the forgotten, the remembered and the lost. All of it fades. I didn't feel sad. Actually, I felt strangely calm. There was something freeing in letting the moment be what it was. Fleeting, quiet, real. I didn't need to chase it. I didn't need to frame it. I just needed to be there. And that's the strange gift Stoicism keeps giving me. Not the absence of feeling, but the ability to feel something fully without clinging to it. That evening didn't change my life, but it reminded me of something I forget all too often. Not every beautiful thing needs to be held. Some are meant to pass through us, and that's where their beauty lives. Lesson number 9, gratitude grounds you. It was a Wednesday afternoon in Park Slope. Rainy, gray, just cold enough to feel like the universe was slightly disappointed in me. I sat in the corner of a small coffee shop, the kind that plays vinyl jazz and charges extra if you don't look relaxed enough. I had my laptop open, pretending to work, but really I was just tired. Tired of the constant juggling deadlines, bills, unread messages, and that vague, lingering question, am I doing enough? Am I enough? So I pulled out my notebook, not because I felt inspired, but because everything else felt too noisy. I decided to try something simple. 3 things I was grateful for. A stranger who smiled at me this morning. It felt oddly personal, even if it was probably directed at someone behind me. Clean socks, because nothing says I have my life slightly together like matching socks on a Wednesday. A good bagel, everything seasoning, toasted just right. A small win in a day that felt like a series of small losses. That was it. Nothing life, yet a changing. But after I wrote them down, I noticed something. The noise in my head didn't go away, but it got a little quieter. My coffee didn't taste better, but it felt warmer. Seneca once said, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." I used to think gratitude was something you express when life is going well. I'm learning it's something you hold on to when it isn't. That afternoon, in a quiet corner of Park Slope, I didn't fix my life, but I held space for it. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Lesson number 10, never stop growing. Even now, I'm still learning. You'd think after a few years of reading about Stoicism and trying to live it, I'd have it down by now. But no, I still get impatient when the train's late. I still take things personally when I shouldn't. And sometimes I still spiral over things that, in the bigger picture, really don't matter. But I come back to the same pages, to the same principles, not because I've mastered them, but because they've been patient with me. Stoicism isn't a finish line. It's a practice, a quiet discipline, the kind that doesn't show up in Instagram quotes, but in small choices. Not replying to that passive, aggressive text, sitting with discomfort instead of numbing it, saying no when I mean no. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free unless he is master of himself. Some days, I feel like I'm getting there. Choosing presence instead of panic. Intention instead of impulse. Other days, I realize I still have a long way to go, but I've stopped judging myself for not being fully stoic. Because growth isn't a straight line. It's more like the F train. It comes when it comes, and sometimes it skips your stop entirely. But every time I choose to pause, to reflect, to breathe in the middle of the noise, I take one step closer, and I think that counts. Brooklyn gave me chaos. Stoicism gave me calm. And these 10 lessons, I didn't just read them. I bumped into them, tripped over them, sometimes tried to ignore them, but in the end, I lived them. So if any of this felt familiar, if you've ever found yourself staring out a window at 2 a.m. wondering if life is supposed to feel this loud, I hope you know you're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, one of these lessons found its way to you at the right time. If it did, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear which one stayed with you. And if you're walking through your own storm right now, bills, burnout, heartbreak, or just that quiet ache you can't quite name, remember, you don't need to control the world, just yourself, and that's more than enough. If this video brought you even a little peace, feel free to share it with someone who might need it too. And if you'd like to keep walking this journey together, subscribe. There's more coming. One breath, one lesson, one quiet moment at a time.